I saw this thing. I was looking on Wikipedia the other day of
as we all do.
the effects of space on the body.
Yeah.
And it showed this little graph basically explaining how like the top half of an astronaut's body in space almost like bloats a tiny bit.
Well, yeah, if we draw blood regularly. I don't know if you ever looked at the big veins in your arm, but they've got like little one-way valves in them. And the purpose of a lot of those is to keep the blood from going the other direction. Or once the blood gets far enough along in your body, it's got like these little check valves that keep it going. And if you think about it in your legs, how does your heart, which is way up here in your chest, squeeze the blood all the way up from your feet to your head? It's like some gigantic balloon.
Right.
And so you've got all these little systems that are, their whole purpose is to try and milk the blood up to your head. And those work great on Earth because gravity's doing the opposite. It's trying to flush it down to your feet. As soon as you get to weightlessness, your body doesn't know it's there. So it's like going, working away, squeezing the blood up to your head, but there's no gravity pushing it down to your feet. So your legs get skinnier and skinnier and skinnier, and your head and your chest starts swelling up, and your cheeks puff up, and your sinuses fill up, and your tongue gets swollen.
Is this a slow process, or is it almost kind of immediate, like once you're up there?
It's sort of like laying head down in a bed.
Yeah,
you know, it's like, it's not like completely standing on your head, but if you get in your bed and you raise the foot of the bed, you know, higher than normal, you'll feel after a while you're starting to get congested and you don't feel right because the blood is more collecting in your head than it would rather. But the trouble in space is it's permanent. You're never getting anything to sling it back down to your feet, and so. What your body eventually does is it says, you know, there's too much blood in your head and your chest, and so it just decreases the amount of overall blood in your body because you're not pooling as much in your legs. So you just lose blood volume, like I forget the number, 15 or 20% of the blood volume.
Whoa. Okay. So you lose blood volume, and I've also heard that your bones deteriorate at a really fast rate. Is that?
Well, just when we're talking blood volume, think about though, if you had 20% less blood, think what happens if you have a beer up there.
Is there beer on this?
No, there isn't. But we think about it. It's just you got less blood to blend it into. But back to the subject, bones. It is the ultimate laziness to be in weightlessness. You literally don't have to lift a finger ever.
I was in a float tank the other day for the first time at the flotation center in Halifax.
Maybe like that, but you still have to push your chest against gravity. But it's perfectly suspended up there. You don't have to hold your head up.
God,
does breathing feel a lot more free?
So good.
Or is that?
Well, if you lie on your back and breathe, it's different than breathing standing straight up, just because of the geometry and the mass of all the bits of your chest and lungs and everything. And so you feel sort of like some unseen hand is gently drawing you towards the ceiling all the time, because we're used to an unseen hand squishing us into the floor.
Right.
And as soon as it's gone, it's not like you feel weightless. You actually sort of feel like you're getting sucked up into the sky a little. And that's everything, including your breathing, feels that way.
Yeah.
But your bones are constantly being adjusted by your body. If you break your arm, your body goes to work right away fixing that break, right? Think of all the little microscopic things that it knows what to do to build bone. Well, you don't have to break a bone for your body to build bone. If you go to the gym, or if you go for a walk or go for a run or jump up and down, or the opposite, if you lie in a sensory deprivation tank or you go to space, your body's going, he doesn't need any bone today. He's strong enough for the environment that he's in.
That's what happens in WALL-E.
Back to WALL-E. All right,
you should watch it.
So I'm gonna. It's on my list now. So your body just stops building bone, and there are some of your bone. Look at the bone in your baby finger. It's kind of whatever it is. It's if you exercise it, but obviously it's sort of in stasis. But if you look at the bones that hold you up, especially your hip bone and your upper femur, the upper part of your leg, they do a lot of work all the time. Just us sitting here, they're doing work to support all the musculature. And when you stand and walk around, you're constantly putting a gravity-driven exercise program of asymmetric loads onto your skeleton all the time without even having to do anything on Earth. All of that immediately goes away the second the engine shut off in space, and you never, unless you deliberately do it, you never exercise your skeleton again. And so your body just stops building it, and so you start to get osteoporosis. You start to lose your skeleton really badly.
Wow,
Like how
that's
quickly
so
is it?
fast.
How quickly is it
Well,
happening?
You guys are only up there for like 6 months.
What's interesting is we
Only 6 months.
Yeah.
how long was Wally up there? So the interesting thing is, of course, the doctors want to know all about how the body works, and this is a great way to study the body. So they take urine samples the first time we pee in space. Intriguingly, the first time we pee in space, it's full of our skeleton already.
That sounds so painful, Chris.
Well,
That
it's
sounds
tiny pieces,
awful.
but it's full of the calcium and minerals of your skeleton.
Right.
Almost immediately, your body starts shedding those,
That fast.
and if you don't do anything, you'll rapidly lose all of your skeleton, especially the parts that you would normally build on a regular basis. And in my case, I was in space for a little under 6 months, 5 and a bit, and I lost about 8% of the bone across my hips and my upper legs,
Wow.
which makes them very fragile.
Now-
Makes them very prone to fracture. And we've had 2 astronauts within 6 months of getting back who have just tripped and fallen or whatever and broken their hip.
No way.
Wow.
Yeah, which normally, your body would have made the bones dense enough that they wouldn't break.
What about Scott Kelly? Because he was just up there for like a year.
Yeah,
or something crazy like that.
He and Misha Kornienko, a cosmonaut, were up for a year. There have been lots of cosmonauts up for a year.
Okay.
And the some of the things in your body, when you're talking the medical impacts of weightlessness, they sort of stabilize after about a month. Your blood chemistry and stuff. You've sort of gotten parts of your body have said, okay, I've made all the changes I can. This is the new you in space. But your bones can, especially the weight bearing, continue to deteriorate. And I lost on the order of 1.5% a month. And then we don't know how to beat that yet. And so staying longer just means you lose more.
So is there a way to prepare for that beforehand? Is there a specific training that you do?
Yeah,
like the groundwork.
We're learning and we're trying. There are some specific chemical and diet kind of protocols that on Earth have an effect on your bone density.
It's like
There's
1,000 gallons of milk a week.
well,
All the milk.
That's hard to bring up to speed. But there's bisphosphonates and a bunch of different things people have tried, or of course just a lot of vitamin D and as you say, milk.
Yeah.
But it's not a supply problem up there. It's not like your body is short on the raw materials to build bone. It's short on the need to build bone. So what we do is we have to exercise. You have to exercise. So we've built better and better exercise equipment up there to try and load up the main structure of the body. And so we have an exercise bicycle for cardiovascular. We have a treadmill, which helps some, but of course you're just held down by bungees. So it's not the same as slamming into a sidewalk as you run. The third one is a big resistive exercise machine, and it's the one that does the best for bone. But still, it's the best we've ever had. We're doing better now than we used to, but it's not.
I wonder what like a heavy bag would do up there. If you're like kicking a bag or like, is that?
Well, see, in order to use a heavy bag, you have to be able to brace your body.
Of course. Right.
And you count on, try and hit a heavy bag in a swimming pool. It's sort of like that.
Right.
You can't. Doesn't work, right? You're assuming your feet are firmly planted on the floor, and we're always looking for something that takes up as little space, has as little mass, but still gives maximum body exercise as possible. So we have this thing. It's funny. We have this. We used to be called the exercise device, and then it got modified, became the resistive exercise device, and then it was the IRED, improved resistive exercise device, and now it's the ARED, advanced resistive, and it's getting better and better and better.
It'll be the epic.
We need the E-Red. That's right.
I like how when Jeremy said the heavy bag, he said it as if nobody would have ever thought of that. What about? Why don't they just?
Guys, I got the answer. I know.
Why don't you just tie bricks around strings and attach them to your feet?
Plus, heavy bag and weightlessness does sound a little unlikely.
So, what's the training leading up to a launch? Like, what are you going through?
So in order to prepare, of course, we try and get our bones as dense as possible. But also for the scientists and doctors, they want to know exactly what state your body's in so that then they can measure the changes and see what spaceflight does. So we go through more tests than you guys would imagine, right down to doing core samples of our muscle, where they go drill, thunk, and pull out a little core sample of your calf so that they can see all the balance of the different types of muscle fibers. And and all sorts of external measurements and such, just to try and see exactly what state you're in. And we go through, of course, a whole exercise protocol and get used to using all the equipment.